Hello and welcome to the Everything is Black and White podcast, live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, and later on our podcast channel. It's an additional episode to the episodes we usually do during the week, and that's because we've unveiled the nominees for the Fans Footballer of the Year for Newcastle United. Our chief sports writer, Lee Ryder, who joins me now, picked these names, and he's going to talk with me about the names he's picked and why. Lee, I'll just run through the four nominees first, and then we'll dive into why they've been picked. So we have Alan St. Maximin, who actually won last year the Newcastle United vote. We have Joe Willick, Callum Wilson, and Jacob Murphy. First off, Lee, I think if I remember correctly, last year it was a little bit difficult to pick anyone who would rival Alan St. Maximin, whereas this time around we have actually got three other people in the running who are up there with him.
Yeah, I think there's obviously the run towards the end of last season, made a bit of competition, but for a Player of the Year, which is probably just as well because this season we're still sitting here without that victory, that first elusive victory. So yeah, to see three or four who are genuinely in with a shout of being Football of the Year for Newcastle United is it's refreshing.
We'll start with Alan St. Maximin then. Like I say, he was crowned Newcastle Fans Footballer of the Year last year. He got 3 goals and 4 assists last season, and we saw how important he was when he came back from being absent. And this season again, we've seen just what he can do. Defenses are genuinely scared of him, Lee. Why has he been picked this year for you?
Look, I mean, if you look at his sort of goal tally towards the end of last season in the run-in, he only got the 1 goal against Burnley. But from that day onwards, I remember it being a really bright, sunny but cold day, and you could see that Burnley knew he was when the teams were coming out. Basically, he was a substitute. He's come off the bench, and he turned Newcastle's season round. And it was just for me, just his mere presence. And Burnley, the moment he's come off the bench and gone out there, basically that gives them something new to think about. And it just his mere presence around the place. Obviously, he played fantastic in the last 6 games without, scoring or making too many assists, apart from that Burnley game. And he just had teams on the back foot. And probably the one game that sticks out for me the most is Liverpool, where we picked up the 1-1 draw. And certainly the Liverpool journalists who are used to watching world-class talent, at the end of the game, they turned around to me and said, well, you'll be lucky to hold on to him over the summer because he's, by far your star player, and, they can recognise a good player when they see one. And, sadly, for them, he's still with us. And to be fair, he's had some good games this season also without Newcastle getting the win. But look, he is a top talent, and hopefully, we can start building a team with more players around it.
Yeah, he is absolutely fantastic to watch. He gets the supporters off their seats. Now, I've popped the link in the comments on YouTube, Facebook, and on Twitter for you guys to go out there and cast your vote. So once me and Lee have gone through the nominees, I mean, if you already read the story, then you know who the other 3 are. But we really want you guys to go and cast your vote so you can crown your Football of the Year. With St. Maximin, Lee, it's been vital that Newcastle did hold on to him this summer. He was very vocal over the summer about ambition and what he wants to achieve in his career. He said that he's had opportunities to leave, but he feels connected to the fans, which is a nice thing to say. Do you think he needs obviously Newcastle, like you say, would love to build a team around him, but do you think there's a little bits of his game he could improve and then a top team might come sniffing around?
Well, I think with every player, there's areas that they can certainly brush up on. For him, I suppose the key word will be consistency. For me, I think he did quite well the other night in the first half against Norwich. Then he was given the defensive sort of shackles, and he got a 6 out of 10 in that game. And we know he's capable of 8s, 9s, possibly 10s on his day. So I do think there'll be interest out there for him, but why does he need to go anywhere? If Newcastle stay up and they put some really good players around him, and Kevin Keegan was the expert at it. He would canvass the opinion of individuals, and you know what I mean, and ask who they should be bringing in, and get the opinion of the players. Who would you like to play with? And if Newcastle did that, I'm sure St. Maximin will come up with a good list of names, and yeah, keep them happy, keep them involved, and keep them on board.
Does he remind you of anyone in that sense? I mean, you've mentioned Kevin Keegan there and the entertainers. You know, the way he keeps the ball to him. I suppose he's got a bit of Beardsley about him, the way the ball sticks to him, and the way he can just go left and right, and the defenders are always struggling to keep up with him.
I mean, for me, he's quite a unique talent. I mean, Peter Beardsley had that individual skill as well. He was blessed with it, but you kind of knew when Peter Beardsley was going to produce those moments of magic, and you knew, you know, if Newcastle were a goal down or something, he might pop up and deliver it. So just, I think, consistency, St. Maximin, you know, he has to bring to his game. You know, Burnley the weekend is an opportunity for him to do that, because when he's on song, you know, Newcastle can probably beat anybody at St. James's Park, let's be honest. But at the moment, things just aren't going for them. But yeah, he reminds me of, you know, David Ginola sometimes, the way he cuts in, or a Tino Asprilla, someone like that, Laurent Robert. Just these players who, as you say, will get you off your seat and entertain you. And you know, we all like that, but at the minute, I'm sure we'd sacrifice it for a gritty, ugly 1-0 win.
The one thing that I think, or the couple of things that I think really did improve last season with Alan St. Max when he came back, was the defensive side of his game, Lee, and also the decision making. I think, was there a game against maybe it was Sheffield United? I think maybe at home, when he pulled the ball back, and I'm sure someone scored from the cross, but it was just a moment where I thought, if a few months prior, he probably would have tried to go himself or shoot on goal, but he took the moment and put it back across the box. I think we've seen some of that elements as well this season, where, you know, his decision making is a little bit better. He's passing the ball maybe a bit quicker than he would have done a few months ago, setting players away, and also, like I say, that defensive side of his game.
Yeah, I mean, Eddie Howe's come in now, and he's going to work with him. I know Steve Bruce had a really good rapport with St. Maximin, and he, let's be honest, let's be fair, he got the best out of him. He was his best player, and he dealt with him in a probably an experienced way. Put the arm around him, you know, built him up in the press, protected him, and he done the job. And whatever people think of Steve Bruce, that's the player he used to keep them in the Premier League for 2 consecutive seasons. Now Eddie Howe has to find his own formula. He's already heaped the praise on Joe Linton. He's already tried to get his confidence in a better place. We haven't heard too much from him on St. Maximin, but there's still time yet. And I'm sure he'll be looking at him to you know, get them up and running and get a win on the board. And St. Maximin, you know, mentioned the game at Turf Moor, scored in that one. Scored the 3-1 win over Burnley last season, so maybe this is a good time to be talking about him.
Yeah, fingers crossed he can score a couple on Saturday against Burnley. On to Callum Wilson, Lee. Obviously, Newcastle fans love a striker, and Callum Wilson arrived, big money, you know, instantly kind of proved his worth. I mean, he is an absolute top-class striker, and he's shown it again this season. 5 goals he's got. He is, you know, the man who probably will fire Newcastle to safety if indeed they can manage to get out of the relegation zone. But he's just a fantastic striker.
Yeah. For me, you know, his goal record says it all. I think he's got averages just over a goal every other game. So for me, he's capable of being on that list of top strikers and staying there. Really good guy. Does his words. When he needs to come out and say something, he'll say it. When he's protecting his teammates, like he did the other night against Norwich with Kieran Clark, he did a very good job to, you know, publicly face up to the media on that one. Just a good dressing room guy, but he won't take any nonsense. And look, what you got to remember with Callum Wilson was the other night, you know, he probably went in that game thinking I can get 2 or 3 here. can get 2 or 3 goals against this lot. And then within 9 minutes, he's got 3 or 4 defenders around him, and he's, being the lone striker again. But he still kept his nerve, scored the penalty. Doesn't matter how it goes in, as long as it goes in. Puts him in a position to win the game, and sadly, they don't. That's what you've got with Callum Wilson. So he's capable of getting the hat-tricks and getting the 2s and 3s, but he's also more than capable of grinding you a win out. And I think there'll be much more goals to come from him. He's a natural goal scorer. With him always, form can be temporary and class is permanent, because eventually he will get you goals. You just have to look at his career. And if you want to talk about his strength of character, bounced back from 2 horrendous injuries, and is still banging the goals in at the top level, and troubling the England scouts, and be brilliant to see him on the plane for the next World Cup. So for me, fully worthy of being on that list for Football of the Year.
And the number 9 shirt certainly looks good on him as well. I mean, we saw last season when Callum got injured and he missed quite a few games, just how crucial he was to Newcastle, because they really suffered without him. He's just so key to that side, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. And it was unfortunate, when he picked up that injury. But look at the games where Newcastle did do well. Callum Wilson was always in and around it. He got 12 goals in the end last season. Could have been a lot more. I think he's already got 5 this season. So I'm expecting him to at least get double figures this season. Look, he's probably already paid his price tag back to Newcastle by helping them stay up last season. If he can do it again this year, then you're in credit almost. So hopefully there's a lot more to come from him, but certainly worthy of, if he did win it, he'd be worthy of that title.
Yeah, definitely. What I love about him as well, he seems a bit like a wind-up merchant for the opposition. He's all, if the ball goes out for the throw, and he's always just trying to hold on to it a little bit longer. He's always got like a little smile in the opposition's defense's face. I think that's really good from a Newcastle point of view. Of course, if you are the opposition, you'll find it very annoying, but I do love to see it. The next person we're going to speak about is Joe Willick. Would it be unfair to say on the rest of the Newcastle United side that without Joe Willick last season, Lee, Newcastle probably would have been relegated, or at least a lot nearer to the drop zone than they ended up finishing?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the points deficit between Newcastle and Fulham in the end, it was something silly, wasn't it? And I think Fulham went down with 28 points, so 29 points would have kept Newcastle up last season. If only that was the case this season, we'd be delighted, because that would be more than achievable. But look, 7 and 7, he helped turn the season on its head. But don't forget, within that short loan period, he's come in, he's scored against Southampton. He's then been dropped. He's then had to come off the bench a couple of times, score a couple of equalisers. I think it was Spurs, scored against West Ham, maybe the winner as well. So he's proved he can fight for his place when he needs to. It isn't going for him at the moment, but I've used that expression. Form's temporary. Class is permanent. For me, he is a class player. Newcastle paid a lot of money for him, but for me, he's a class player. He'll come good again. He's still young. He's trying. The one thing I took from it the other night was, okay, it wasn't his best game. He's on the end of a low merit mark, which we know causes so much discussion within the fan base. But he's trying. He's rolling his sleeves up. He's putting himself about. He's trying to make something happen. And like any goal scorer, which he is, albeit from midfield, once you get one, you're on another run again. And in a way, the way he scores goals in these sort of periods reminds me a bit of Rob Lee. And I'm sure Rob Lee would tell you that, he went on 1 or 2 goal droughts at Newcastle, but once he got going again, he couldn't stop scoring, and he got a lot of goals from midfield. And he reminds me of Rob Lee in that he will have those runs, bad runs, barren runs, whatever you want to call them, and then all of a sudden he's off and running again. And I think that might be the case with Joe Willick. He could be a player that will get you 7 or 8 a season, but they'll come over those long runs.
Yeah, fingers crossed he can get his first of the season, hopefully against Burnley, because I think he does need a goal just to boost his spirits and boost his confidence. Because, like you say, it's not quite working yet. But obviously, you've got the situation. He's moved up from London. The manager who kind of, who I mean, he got on really well with Steve Bruce, and he's gone. There's been a change, and of course, Newcastle in the relegation scrap as well. All these elements probably aren't ideal for a youngster moving up to Newcastle, but I'm sure he will come good sooner rather than later. You could tell by the joy and elation when Willick signed permanently from the Newcastle United fans just how much they really do like him. So I'm sure it'll prove a signing well made. The final name, Lee, Jacob Murphy, a man whose career looked done and dusted at Newcastle United at one point, and he came in. And really, when you look at what he did last season, he scored 2 goals, and I've got 3 assists written down. Some of them were absolutely crucial, and he probably maybe goes under the radar a little bit because maybe of the goals Wilson or St. Max Moore, like we say, Joe Willick scored. But I think Murphy maybe goes under the radar a little bit to just how important he was last season to getting Newcastle out of bother.
Yeah, I mean, he's on the list, and it's good that he is on the list, and that's why I put him on there, because, as you just said there, what he produced was, in the end, it was quite important. And a lot of people, if you ask them off the top of the head, they wouldn't say Jacob Murphy. But for me, if you look at it deeply and you start taking a few layers off this 2021, you have to say he's been a player that has helped Newcastle United this year. Yeah, there's no doubt he's going to be probably people's 4th pick. But for me, he deserves to be in there. He deserves to be in the running. And as you say, I remember actually doing a story, and it wasn't writing him off, but I was being told that Sheffield Wednesday were going to send him back to Newcastle because they weren't happy with what he was producing down there. And Steve Bruce, wasn't really happy about that. But then second half of the sort of lockdown season, I think it was, he comes good, comes back to Newcastle in the pre-season, impresses. And he had a great season last year, and he earned a new contract. So well done for him, and definitely a player. You'd have him on your team sheet. And I know he got dropped the other night, but certainly a player. You want to turn a game, you can bring him on as well. So a player that gives Newcastle so much.
Definitely. I mean, it was the assist against Aston Villa, which I think was potentially very late on. And then we had the goal he scored as well, didn't he, against Burnley, which Alan St. Maximin also scored in that game. Some really crucial key roles he played in the running, which guided Newcastle away. And like you say there, Lee, there was a time when we thought it was over for him at Newcastle. He's a boyhood Newcastle fan, so that really would have hurt. But he stood up and, he worked hard, and look at him now. He probably is the first choice right wing back. It's a really good sign of his character that he took on the challenge, and he ultimately, he beat that challenge.
Yeah, he did. I mean, I remember I think it was last season. He ended up with a captain's armband against Blackburn, and I wondered if it was just one of those incidents where someone just throws the armband up when they've come off and he catches it and just puts it on. But actually, when he was coming up the stand after the game, I said, "Do you fancy, wearing that again in the future?" And he says, one day I'd love to be captain. And, I was taken aback by that, but it's great confidence. And, you would love to see in the future that he's going to be a role model for people in the academy that can step on that first team pitch and deliver, and not just good performances, but assists, goals, important defensive contributions. He is an example to youngsters that whatever happens in your career, you might go out on loan, it might not go well, but you can still keep battling, and you can still get down the last knock-ins, which he did of his contract, and then he's earned a long-term one. So just shows you that you can't give up, and he's a great example of that.
100%. Every time you hear him talk to the media, some of the interviews, are absolutely brilliant. He speaks in many ways, I think, like a coach, the way he analyzes the game, analyzes his own game and what's gone wrong, what's gone right. It's some brilliant interviews he's done over the past few months. Just to wrap up then, Lee, these 4 players that you've picked, Alan St. Maximin, Joe Willick, Callum Wilson, and Jacob Murphy, going forward, let's say Newcastle, hopefully they survive relegation, and then, you know, the new owners start to spend and build. Do you see these 4 players still having a part to play in Newcastle going forward 2-3 years, maybe?
Yeah, I do actually. With all 4, I can make a case for that. No doubt about that. I mean, Alan St. Maximin, you're looking to build a team around him. Callum Wilson's your proven goal scorer. Joe Willick's still very young and brings a lot, and will certainly at least be a player in the squad. You know, and then obviously Jacob Murphy can play in a number of positions. For me, yeah, I would say absolutely that they can be part of this moving forward. And I'm sure there's probably a few others you can make the case for as well. But first things first, we've got to get survival this season, and this is the squad. These guys at the minute who are in this squad, in the team, they can be the history boys here. And the first season of a new ownership, keep them in the league. And those scenes, if we're seeing, you know, like when Aston Villa stayed up that time, they were getting criticised for celebrating in the dressing room. I think it was Roy Keane. He wasn't happy with it. But that symbolic scene has proved to be a foundation for Villa. Newcastle now, this season, hopefully they can be part of it. And, you know, I mean, I've spoke to a few people since the Norwich game where 2 points were arguably lost. And it is looking like a difficult task, but I still think they can do it. Personally, I still believe they can get 10 victories from the remaining fixtures. I still believe they can stay up. And I hope the players have got that attitude, because some really good players in there. You look at the fixture list, there's always going to be tough fixtures in the Premier League, but they're capable of winning 1 or 2 against the big teams. And then there's other games where you look at it and you just go, well, if Newcastle are on song in that game, they can win. For me, they can still stay up. They're not too far adrift, but it has to start. It has to start against Burnley. You've got to turn the ship around, and this is the game where you've got to win, because it doesn't matter how they do it, whether it's a 1-0 scrappy own goal in the 94th minute. They just have to get that first win and build from there. But look, what's December the 2nd now? I'm saying they can stay up. I just hope the players have that same belief.
Yeah, fingers crossed they have that positivity. And like you say, Saturday, huge game. Lee will be speaking to Eddie Howe tomorrow for the press conference, so head over to chroniclelive.co.uk in the morning to catch that. Head over to the website now. Loads of good stuff on there. And also, once again, I've popped the link into the comments for how you get to vote. It'll be in the podcast notes as well. This has been the Fans Footballer of the Year, nominated. I was going to try and put it on the screen there, but I've lost the actual picture I had. But nominated is Jacob Murphy, Callum Wilson, Alan St. Maximin, and who was the one? Joe Willick. So there you have it. Head over to the website to cast your vote. Lee, thanks for joining us. To everyone listening, thanks for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your week.